Hey everyone, Nick here and welcome back to GamerTube, and welcome back to our Garden of Banban character concept series. So in today's video, the character we're looking into is Stinger Stacy. So we're going to this character's backstory, gameplay mechanics, location, and all that good stuff as well. As always, I will just state that everything I say in these videos isn't necessarily linked to the overall universe and lore of Garden of Banban. This is just a fun what-if scenario and a cool creepy story we get to tell, and we hope you enjoy. And last, before we start today's video, do be sure to subscribe to GamerTube as it helps out a lot and it's greatly appreciated. It also keeps you up to date with all the videos that we post. Also, do be sure to leave a like on this video as we are going to be doing our character concept live stream very soon, so do be sure to leave a like and stay tuned. Alrighty everyone, well, let's get into character concept of Stinger Stacy. So previously in our Garden of Banban character concept series, we looked into the character of Jumbo Jane. Jumbo Jane was Jumbo Josh's sister. She shared similar traits to Josh, but her most defining feature was her large pearly white teeth. Throughout the video, Jumbo Jane's hands kept trying to attack the player. Eventually they came face to face with what was behind those hands. The player eventually defeated Jumbo Jane and proceeded down to the lower levels of the kindergarten. And little does the player know, they'll be facing yet another version of the popular characters. So in Garden of Banban 3, the player meets Stinger Flynn. He appears in many moments throughout the chapter, but not many knew that there was more than one Stinger character. Even Stinger Flynn himself didn't know about this secret character. So as we all know, at the Banban kindergarten, many experiments with the Juvenium compound were performed, but not all of them work out as originally planned. This twisted experiment was meant to be in every way like Stinger Flynn, and on the surface they look quite similar, but this wouldn't be the case. So this forgotten character is Stinger Stacy. Stinger Stacy is a light blue coloured version of Stinger Flynn, but instead of one large eye, she had two of them. She also wasn't as large as Stinger Flynn. On the surface she seemed like quite a friendly character. So what could have been the reason for abandoning this so-called failed experiment? Well, it turns out that Stinger Stacy was one of the most dangerous characters at the kindergarten. But this high-risk danger wasn't entirely Stinger Stacy's fault. It wasn't like she was aggressive or violent, it was more due to her natural ability. Stinger Stacy had more tendrils than she showed on the surface. She had many smaller tendrils that would emerge out of her mouth and front tentacles. These harmless-looking tendrils were coated in an extremely potent neurotoxin. If these tendrils ever touched any of the researchers, it would cause them to severely hallucinate. If the sting wasn't too severe, some of the researchers would be able to recover. But if they got stung multiple times, they would be trapped in a dangerous hallucinogenic state, and they would never be able to wake up. So with this new and shocking discovery, they hid Stinger Stacy from the children and all the other mascot members of the kindergarten. If she was ever to sting any of the other characters, then who knows what would happen to them. So with this in mind, they locked Stinger Stacy away in the lower levels of the kindergarten. And this so happens to be the same lower levels that the player was heading straight for. As the elevator platform reached the bottom, the player finds themselves walking down a dark corridor. They walk through the doors and reach a new area. There wasn't really anything special about this area. It didn't seem to have a theme or anything. All around this area are large securely locked doors. There was no way the player would be getting through any of these. So they walk down the open corridor and come across something quite strange. What are these? They look like strange skinny streamers. They appear to be dangling from the ceiling. The player gets closer to inspect these strange looking objects. But unfortunately, they get a little too close. One of the hanging tendrils stings the player and injects them with a small amount of the toxin. And what happened next was quite strange to say the least. The player starts to hallucinate and sees many strange things. Everything around is distorted and blurry. In front of them, they can see a strange looking creature. It looks like Stinger Flynn, but this jellyfish was blue and was wearing a sun hat. All of a sudden, this jellyfish split into two and then split again. The player was suddenly surrounded by multiple jellyfish. There was nowhere to go, they were trapped. As the many blue jellyfish got closer and closer, they started to fade away. Eventually, the player comes back from their hallucinogenic state. The walls stop moving and everything was normal again. What on earth was that? The player can't explain what just happened, but it must have been one of those tendrils that touched them. The player needs to make sure they don't touch them again, because if they did, who knows how long they would be trapped inside their mind again. So in this gameplay segment, the player needs to use their drone to clear out all the tendrils. When the drone hits the tendrils, they retract back through the ceiling. Once the hallway is clear, the player can then walk through. They then come to a large metal door. It seems like this is the only way out of here. The door is locked and needs a keycard. So the player sets out and goes looking for this keycard. Eventually they find it hanging from one of those strange tendrils. They reach out for it and it retracts out of reach. Then all of a sudden the player comes face to face with Stinger Stacy. Out of her mouth and front tentacles pours out the poisonous tendrils. The player has to be careful not to get stung by them. So in this gameplay segment, the player needs to run around this area and activate 3 switches. Each of the switches would take a few moments to turn on. Whilst the player waits, they would need to dodge multiple attacks from Stinger Stacy. She would swing her tentacles at the player, and they would need to get out of the way just in time. After a while, each of the buttons would activate and the player would press them with their drone. Once every button has been pressed, the anti-escape measures for Stinger Stacy would activate. Freezing cold NO2 vapor would pour all over Stinger Stacy. This freezing cold cloud would send her body into shock. She retreats back down into the depths. She won't be able to get out as long as the cold vapor hangs above her. That one stray tendril drops the keycard in front of the player. They grab the keycard and head back to the door. It opens and they can move on to the next area. As they move on, they wonder if they'll ever run into any more strange failed experiments. Surely there couldn't be any more lurking around this underground area, but the player couldn't be sure. But as to what the next character will be, we'll just have to wait and see. Alrighty everyone, well that's what we have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please consider leaving a like, commenting and subscribing, so it helps out a lot and it's greatly appreciated. As always, let me know in the comment section down below what you thought of Stinger Stacy and what you'd like to see going forward. Alrighty everyone, well thanks for watching and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.